Perfect? Bang on my chest if you think I'm perfect. Go ahead, bang on it.
No heart?
You gotta have heart. Miles and miles of heart.
This is Patchwork Heart Ministries' Young Catholics Respond, brought to you by Breadbox Media. Now, here's your host, Bill Snyder.
Thanks, Adam, and welcome to Young Catholics Respond here. It's our very first episode with our new lead sponsor, Breadbox Media. It is an amazing opportunity for our ministry, so I want to give a big shout out to everyone on Breadbox Media listening to this episode, and I couldn't be happier to be joined today by Allyson Cayce. She is a trustee of the My Father's Love Foundation, and just a little bit more about her. She was born in upstate New York and moved to the Chicagoland area after college. She and her husband Doug married in 1995 and have 3 children, Drew, Molly, and Maggie. Allyson is a stay-at-home mom, and she met Lachelle Van Houten, the author of The Mural Writer, on an airplane ride in late March of 2015. And that basically sparked her incredible journey to My Father's Love. So welcome, Allyson, to the program, and thank you so much for joining me today on Young Catholics Respond.
Thanks for having me, Bill. It's a pleasure.
So I want to start out, many people have no idea what this My Father's Love Foundation is, who created it, who it centers around, this Ed Lantzer. Can you just paint a picture for us about this wonderful journey of artwork?
Well, it is quite a journey, and as you know, people are becoming more aware of it. My Father's Love is the name of the exhibit that Ed Lantzer created over the course of a 24-year period. But Ed's journey himself was, quite an extension, and so a book was written about him called The Mural Writer, and I happened to meet the author of that book on an airplane ride and read her book and became engrossed in the story of Ed Lantzer, which Ed was out of Michigan, northern Michigan. So I traveled to Michigan to see this artwork, which at the time was not on display. But Ed himself created these works of art from the time he was 53 years old until his death at 77. And his journey leading up to that 53 years was a volatile one, and it was a beautiful story told. And we had the fortune of, when I was in Michigan, of meeting with this foundation, the nonprofit that Ed himself created to protect and preserve his artwork so that they could be on display for the world to see. And so at the time they were not on display. I felt called to find a home for them. And so it took us a few months, but we managed to find a space where I am, which is outside the Chicagoland area in the suburbs, called Libertyville, Illinois. And we brought them here. And since then, they've had 2 separate homes in our area, so that we've had about 40,000 people come through to see this exhibit simply by word of mouth, on programs like this and different, word of mouth ways of spreading the good news, and people have come to see the exhibit, which is free to the public and always will be. So Ed's story is a volatile one. I don't know how much you want me to fill you in on that, but as you know, Bill, he had a sort of a volatile life at a young age. At 4 years old, he had scarlet fever that left him impaired with fine motor skills. And during that time of the scarlet fever running through his town, his hometown of Kalkaska, Michigan, his baby brother contracted it and passed away, unfortunately. And he began a very volatile relationship with his mother during this time. And he was blamed for the death of the baby because of being sick himself. And so Ed had, some volatility, and throughout schooling, he had, volatility. He was bullied in school and but he always had a love of marquetry and woodworking, which he learned from his father, who was a carpenter by trade. And I was not familiar with marquetry when I first learned of Ed Lantzer, but marquetry is an art form where you take wood and put it onto another piece of wood to create imagery. And Ed created, different things with his dad as a young boy, but as a teenager, he decided to work with a 30-60 degree diamond shaped piece of wood. And he worked with that throughout his young life as a carpenter. And it wasn't until much later in his life that he received a vision from God after reading C.S. Lewis's book, Mere Christianity. And he claims that he saw the image of the Last Supper, and he said to God, who is this? Is this Da Vinci, or, what famous artist is this? And God said to him, it's you. It's Ed Lantzer's work. And Ed said, but God, I'm disabled. I can't do that. And God's reply to him was, no, but I can through you. And so at that point in his life, to quote Ed, he traded in his life. And at 53 until his death at 77, he did nothing but this project. And during that time, he created 30 murals that are 4 feet wide by 8 feet tall, each weighing over 400 pounds, that depict the life of Christ through these tiny little diamonds. And he uses over 2 million of them in total. And he never stains the wood, paints it, or dyes it. It's just raw wood that he attaches with Elmer's wood glue onto these 4 by 8 sheets of plywood. And it's really a story that you almost have to see to believe, because no pictures would ever do it justice. It's Marquetry sort of resembles like a mosaic, except that it's wood instead of tile or something else. So it's a beautiful art form. And when you see the images that he's created, never sketching them first, mind you, because he was disabled, he wasn't able to write or draw. He just got the vision and started working in the center and worked his way out. So when you see one mural in itself, it's a marvel. But when you see him depicting the Last Supper, which is 7 murals, so you're looking at 28 linear feet long by 8 feet tall, almost 2,800 pounds of wood. It's just, the wonder and awe of it is just incredible, because he never sketched it first. So it's just, how would he ever have been able to do that?
Yeah, it's truly
it's
amazing.
Quite a story. It really, really is.
It really is. And as you said, you have to see to believe it. And there's no pictures that will ever do it justice. Believe it or not, the background on my cell phone is actually one of the images of Ed Lantzer's work still. That's how great of a impact that this has had on my personal faith and being able to see it in person. But I know that I have a wide audience all over the country and world, and it is totally worth a trip if you're ever in the Chicagoland area to go and see this, because it is truly amazing. But talk a little bit more. We have a few minutes still before the break here. Just a little bit about the miracle of this, and because there were so many miracles. I mean, as you mentioned, Ed had lots of trouble throughout his life, and
yes.
Often homeless. He just found, but this art kind of propelled him for 20 plus years. So do you want to
Absolutely. Probably one of my favorite stories on the journey. And this journey obviously will continue perpetually. That's one of the other beautiful things about it, is what a legacy this man has left behind. But first of all, the artwork appeals to everybody. It doesn't even have to be people of faith. That's kind of one of the most important things. We have a lot of artists come in, people from every kind of background you could imagine. We have homeless people, we have very wealthy people, we have agnostics and atheists to devout people of every religious denomination, and everybody loves it for something different. We have little 5-year-olds and we have 105-year-olds come through. And again, everybody responds to it in their own special way, because there's something to be seen through everybody's eye. Everybody's lens sees something different in this exhibit, because there's so much going on that a lot of people will see something different than their neighbor. And how tall they are or how short they are really affects how they see the murals, with the way the light hits them. And there's just so many nuances to the art itself. So art lovers, woodworkers, all different types of craftsmen come in, and they see the murals in their own lens, and it really is beautiful to witness as just a docent. But a lot of the murals, a lot of the journey that I find fascinating, just as somebody who, has volunteered thousands and thousands of hours on this project, is just how Ed kind of coined the term a relay team. So when God came to him, in 1985 to create the first mural of the Last Supper, Ed was sort of like, well, how am I going to do this? A, I'm disabled, and B, just how is this literally going to happen? And to quote Ed again, he said, that God told him that the Father will provide, meaning God will provide everything he needs as long as he does the work. So when Ed traded in his life at that point, everyday things that a lot of us do, whether it's work or maintain a home or, whatever it is that we're doing, basic grocery shopping, laundry, things of that nature, Ed didn't do anymore. He became homeless at that time, and he spent all day, every day, until he was tired. When he'd fall asleep, he'd wake up the next day and start right back in on the exhibit. And so he didn't have to worry about all the other things, because he always knew that God would send just the right people into his day to take care of all the other needs. And that has happened, since 1985, and will continue, because we're all, that are keeping his legacy alive and this exhibit alive, all just volunteer our efforts. So whether it's being a docent or donating money or donating, your time to bring people in and guests in and whatnot, everybody's just a volunteer. But God plants the right people at just the right time to continue to help this mission. And I think that's probably one of the biggest miracles, because I personally have seen it happen hundreds and hundreds of times when we're kind of wedged into a corner and say, okay, well, how are we going to pay the heat bill this month? Or how are we going to, move these murals in 24 hours because there are 30 of them and they're 400 pounds apiece and we need a team of people to do it. It just always works out because God sends us just the right person at that time. And it's happened so often that I can only imagine the stories that I heard from when Ed first started this, and all the many, 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 many people throughout this journey that come into the story at just the right time and do their purpose in the job, and then maybe they stay on and maybe they don't. But, not everybody's job is to stay on forever. It might just be for, a specific task. And that is so true in so much of what we do in our lives, if we have our eyes open to it, that, this is God's plan for us, and just the right thing will happen on God's time. And it's been a real joy to watch that unravel, because not only, is this going on, but it spins into a lot of other things. We've had a lot of groups come in that have had their troubles, and, you might catch one or two kids or young adults at a time that see this and have a huge impact, and it propels them into something else of service. Yeah. Or, it gets them on a better path. And, so Ed's influence in his artwork, knowing that he had difficulties in his young life, has propelled other young people to feel, that God's love through the exhibit.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of stories like that are really fun stories. Even senior citizens who are sort of in their last years that feel sort of alone and abandoned, and maybe they've lost a spouse of many, many years, and they've come to the exhibit with their senior centers, and they have a new spark, and they go back and they're recharged, and they know they're not alone. And so all ages have really had a lot of impact, and that's what Ed wanted his artwork to do, was to influence people to know that they're loved. And that's why he calls it My Father's Love, because he always knew that love despite all the adversity in his young life.
Yeah, it's just amazing. Allyson, we got to take a short break, but there's so much more to the story. So don't want our listeners to go away. Stay tuned right here on Patchwork Heart Radio's Young Catholics Respond. We're going to come back and continue our conversation with Allyson Cayce about My Father's Love and Ed Lantzer. Right back after these messages.
For nearly 500 years, the people of Mexico have taken advantage of a promise made by the Queen of Heaven. In the year 1531, Our Lady appeared to a humble Aztec Indian and revealed herself to be the mother of the one true God. Telling Saint Juan Diego that she desired a temple to be built in her honor, she promised that she would help all those who appealed to her motherly love and protection. To seal this promise, our Blessed Mother left an image of herself that has been miraculously preserved and can be seen by all who visit the Shrine of Our Lady of Guadalupe in Mexico City. Our Lady is not a liar. For nearly 5 centuries, millions of people from throughout Mexico have made pilgrimages to the shrine, either seeking Our Lady's help or thanking her for a petition granted. Today, more than ever, she is ready to help you or any of her children who seek her assistance. To learn more about how you can visit this remarkable shrine and bring your own petitions to our Blessed Mother, please visit vivaguadalupe.org.
Faith comes from what is heard, and what is heard comes by the preaching of Christ. But I ask, have they not heard?
Do you seek to make Scripture a greater part of your daily faith journey? Would you like it readily available on your smartphone or tablet? The Truth and Life Bible app delivers to your mobile device the complete Catholic edition of the Revised Standard Version of the Bible with a concordance entirely free. You will also enjoy free content from Father Robert Barron's Word on Fire, Father Jim McElhone's Word Made Clear, Jeff Caven's The Great Bible Adventure, and the Catholic News Agency. In addition, you can hear the Gospel of Mark dramatically proclaimed by world-renowned actors and actresses like Blair Underwood, Neil McDonough, Kristen Bell, and many more. The full audio dramatization of the New Testament, along with the Ignatius Study Bible, can be purchased within the app. It is available on the App Store, Google Play, Amazon Kindle, and at downloadjesus.com.
Do you want to keep your finger on the pulse of Patchwork Heart Ministry? Follow our monthly blog, Written on Our Hearts. Simply go to patchworkheartministry.blogspot.com and click subscribe, and follow the on-screen instructions. That's patchworkheartministry.blogspot.com, then click subscribe.
Your heart is always beating, but you never have to think about it.
Welcome back to Young Catholics Respond. Once again, Bill Snyder.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Young Catholics Respond here on Patchwork Heart Radio. Again, this is the first episode on Breadbox Media, which is a wonderful platform, and it's an honor to be a part of all the things that they're doing on Breadbox. But I want to continue our conversation with Allyson Cayce. Today, we're talking about the My Father's Love exhibit and foundation. It's just an amazing work of Jesus Christ. A non-denominational work of Jesus Christ. And Allyson, we're talking about all the different people that have seen this and had an impact on throughout the course of their life. But your story and how you became, incredibly involved with this is just equally amazing. And I know it's had a profound effect on your personal faith. So just want to maybe talk to us a little bit about that and about how this has truly changed your life.
Well, yeah, this is one of the stories that is a huge offshoot of Ed's journey. But it's happened multiple times. I'm not the only person that this has happened to. It just, for me, started in March of 2015, a week before I decided to take a quick flight to Florida to visit my parents with my daughters at one of the busiest times of the year. And I got separated from my girls, and lo and behold, the people I was sitting next to, I got chatting with because of circumstances on the flight. It was a little bit chaotic. And the woman sitting next to me was an author. And that author, as we talked about earlier, is Lachelle Van Houten, the author of Ed's memoir called The Mural Writer. And she was also an art teacher for at-risk kids. So when, I found this out, I said, wow, well, we're going to visit my dad, who wrote a book and takes art classes. And, oh, by the way, I teach religion to teenagers. So we had a lot of things in common. So I had asked her what her book was about. And lo and behold, I got home from my trip. I ordered her book on Amazon. And kind of what happened from there is, when I look back on it now, almost 3 years later, is really the work of the Holy Spirit took a hold of me. And I was a little slow to pay attention, but once I started paying attention, it became very clear that God was asking me to take on this assignment. But that wasn't something that I understood what that even meant at the time. And if I did, I probably would have been scared off, to be totally honest, because I was not really equipped with this. I don't have the skills to do this, much like Ed didn't. But when God's in charge and the Holy Spirit leads you, everything's possible. So I ended up going to Michigan with my dear friend Amy. And we went on this sort of what I'd call a pilgrimage to sort of, we thought we were going to see the exhibit, but we didn't, because they were not on display at the time. And to put it mildly, they were impossible to see. So we got to see some of his practice pieces, where he was born, where he created a lot of the work, where the coffee shops were that he and Lachelle would meet at and talk, and, you know, all the different parts of his life's journey, which for someone like me who's more of a visual learner, that was a key part of why God made those murals be, you know, not available to be seen. Because had I seen them, I would have just seen them and it would have been over. They would have stayed in Michigan and none of this would have ever happened. But because they were, you know, not on display, I had this yearning to see them. And his story just stole my heart. So I called my husband and I said, hey, you know, I'm in Michigan and I can't see the murals. I think I know why I'm here. I think we need to bring them back to Libertyville, which sounds a little bit crazy, because now I'm coming back to the suburbs of Chicago asking people to donate 3,000 square foot of space for free about an art exhibit that I've never seen. You know, so people think I'm a little bit crazy. Yeah. So I didn't really make a lot of progress from, let's say, middle of April until the middle of July into early August. And so I called Lachelle and I said, hey, would you be interested in coming to my home, and I can organize some book talks in my suburb and invite people to sort of hear your story, because it would have a lot more credibility from you, since I've never even seen it. And then maybe I could find a space with a little bit more substance. And lo and behold, she came in October of 2015, and 5 days later we secured a space. And 2 weeks after that, the murals arrived, first time ever seeing them. And, you know, we launched an exhibit on December 3rd on a community house walk for the holiday season, which gave us, you know, 400 people on the opening day. And we handed out these little, you know, postcards that had the basic information. We ordered 10,000 of them, and we were out of them within 8 months, because that was our basically free advertising. You know, we handed out all these postcards and people just kept sharing them and sharing them and sharing them. And so from December 3rd until June 3rd, so December 3rd to June 3rd, we were at an abandoned warehouse in Libertyville that we created an art gallery, basically, you know, for that time period out of donations. And then as we were hitting a roadblock there, the president of Carmel Catholic called me, who I did not know. You know, he was a new president to the school. He'd only been there for, you know, 1 year. And he called me and said, we'd love to take the exhibit. You know, we don't want it to go homeless, and we don't want it to go away, because there's just so much good that is happening around this exhibit. So we brought it over to Carmel, and wouldn't you know that God knew exactly what he was doing, because we have, you know, my father's love is 28 linear feet, but so is my mother's love. So you need two walls that are 28 linear feet uninterrupted.
Right.
And Carmel just so happened to have in a room there that was being underutilized, two walls that were of that size. So we thought, wow, that's pretty incredible. Thank you, God, for that. And we ended up moving the exhibit there in June of 2016 at this point. And we're still there. We were only supposed to be there for 6 months, but the school has been incredibly generous. We continue to do private tours and have senior centers and communities. And, you know, last week I just did a little 5-year-old Daisy Girl Scout troop. A friend of mine, Amy, that, you know, has been on this journey with me from the beginning. You know, she had a special education class come in, and they were so enamored with it that they're now scheduling all the rest of the classes to come over the next few months. And that's sort of how we've been operating. The first, you know, year we had scheduled hours, and now we're really operating more by appointment only, so that the school can still have their flow of the day, and we can still give private tours that are a little bit more intimate than just like a regular art exhibit would be. We'll eventually go back to those regular hours, but we're still sort of trying to fine-tune that as we're in transition here. But it's just so amazing to watch it affect people, whether they're an art lover or, you know, just they fall in love with Ed's story, you know, or a lot of times people want to hear my story, which is, you know, kind of fun too, because when people think, you know, well, gosh, God's not really using me to do anything, they often maybe miss it like I used to. You know, I'm in my mid to late 40s at this point now. And so I always say, well, I didn't know I was able to do this either. But when God kind of knocks on the door, are you going to let him in and do his work or not? And that's really what's happened with me, because not only am I, very committed to the exhibit and serving on the board now of My Father's Love, it's spun into a lot of other things that I do. Obviously I met you through this, Bill, and, a lot of people that are just extremely generous people that want to help the exhibit along have now become friends of mine.
Yeah, it's
amazing.
And
it's branched me into a lot of other community service things. And that's just been a real added bonus to what already was a huge bonus.
Yeah.
So it's been a real gift. People say, how do you give so much time to this for 3 years? And I said, well, it doesn't ever seem like that, because when you're doing God's work, it's such a reward, really. I feel like it was a blessing. I never feel like it's a burden ever. So I always thank Ed for somehow finding me along this path, because it completely changed my course. And as my husband always says, you really can't go back to the way you were before when you've had something like this hit you in the head.
Right. And I think as I said, the impact is, it's on my phone every day. When I click the home button on my iPhone, it's there. Jesus' open arms right there through his photo and through his marquetry. I mean, it's not standing in front of the 8-foot panel, but I mean, there's something so amazing about this artwork, and it's truly a miracle. We just have a few minutes, but I want to mention that people at MIT have studied this, correct? And
they have, right?
And they haven't been able to figure out the math and how he was actually able to put this together. It's a mystery. This is a miracle.
Right, it is a miracle. As Ed himself would say, computers and humans, MIT and many other students and, very accomplished people have tried to make sense of this. And Ed himself says, computers and humans will come close, but they'll never figure it out, because I didn't do this. This is God's work through my hands. And to see some of Ed's report cards and things that he penned in his younger years, he was a man with disabilities. So you wouldn't think that, he would be able to. But the subtitle of the book is An Outcast Who Fulfilled an Extraordinary Purpose. And that's exactly what it was. Ed was an outcast in society, and God used this broken man to perform this, miracle. And it really is something you have to see to believe. I offer private tours. If it's not me, it's usually my friend Amy or one of my other peers that are docents. And you can go on to myfatherslove.info, the website, myfatherslove.info, or Carmel Catholic High School in Mundelein, Illinois. They have a tab on it. Or you can email me personally at D as in David, CAYCE @sbcglobal.net. That's my personal email. And we create a calendar where we offer private tours. So any of those avenues, that information's out there. And, whether it's a small group or even a large group, we can, really accommodate almost 100 people at a time. So it's a nice, beautiful open room, and it's absolutely just something worth seeing. And again, it's free to the public. So, there's not a lot of things you can come and have such a beautiful outing for free anymore.
Right.
And Ed desired that because as a homeless man, he wanted to make sure it would be available to everybody.
So there it is. Allyson, thank you so much for your time and sharing this amazing miracle and artwork with us. It's so hard to share it on the radio, but we do our best to do that.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it. It really does bring me such joy. And on behalf of Ed and all of the people at My Father's Love, thank you, Bill. Thank you, and all that you're doing to share God's Word.
Of course. Well, once again, this has been an episode of Young Catholics Respond on Patchwork Heart Radio. Until next time, from all of us at Patchwork Heart Ministry, keep beating to your Catholic heart.
This has been an episode of Young Catholics Respond. For more information about our program or to be a guest, visit patchworkheart.org, email info@patchworkheart.org, or call 424-704-3278. That's 424-704-3278.